Look at my lamb. Hey guys, Cappy with the Black Hills Homestead. We're back today to talk about the next step in your cast iron journey. The next step in what you're going to do once you get your cast iron purchased and cleaned up. How are you going to season the cast iron? So what we've done is we took this griddle that we showed you the last time. We got that guy cleaned up. It still got a little bit of the seasoning on there, but I didn't need to take all of it off because it was still good. We just needed to work on a couple little spots. So here are a couple of the pans that we had in the lye mixture, in that drain cleaner mixture. So you can see that we've cleaned up almost every little bit of old seasoning that was on there. We do have a little bit that's left over, this little bit of black on the outside. Now, if that doesn't come off easily, just put it back in the lye water. Put it back in the solution for a little bit. I'm not worried about that. It's on the outside of the pan. The inside looks really good, and that's where we want it to be. So what I've done with these is that I've taken my lint-free rag. This is just an old tea towel that I use for this purpose. And I put a little thin coat of oil on there. Again, once you clean these things up, you need to be really careful of that flash rust. You've worked really hard to get them to this point. Make sure you take care of them and go. So one of the pans that we had, and I'll show you guys here in a second, after we got it cleaned up, it's not a very high quality pan. Once we got the gunk cleaned off the bottom, it's a made in Taiwan skillet, but there's a lot of defects in the cast itself. So I have some pitting on the sides, I have some pitting on the end of the handle. It's a decent cast iron pan. It wouldn't be front line for me. I wouldn't keep it in my kitchen, but we're gonna season this guy up and then we're gonna put it in the camper because why not? Let's put it on the camper. So, excellent. First things first, you're gonna make some smoke in your house. So if you have smoke detectors and you can turn them off or pull the batteries, try to mitigate some of the smoke if you can crack a door or something like that. We have the oven set at 450. We're using olive oil because that's what I have in my kitchen. Grapeseed oil is a great option for this. Has a little higher flash point, smoke a little less. So if you have the opportunity to use grapeseed oil, that works great. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert all these guys in the oven. We're going to leave them in there for about 45 minutes. And you're going to start smelling hot metal, start smelling smoke, things like that. Just let them cook. 45 minutes. What you're going to want to do when you pull these out, use a couple of hand mitts or a really good like grill glove or even a grill glove with a hot mitt. So we'll double these up. A friend of mine, Lexi Schultz, makes these here in town, Burpee, super cool ones. And yeah, so we'll get those pulled out, take a look at what they need to do, let them cool down a little bit, apply another coat of oil, put them back in the oven. Hot mitts. All right, guys, the cast iron's been in the oven at 450 for about 45 minutes now. All right, full disclosure. I don't know if it's been exactly 45 minutes because we forgot to start the timer, but someone is gonna zoom in on this video and look at that clock and tell me, so good on you for that guy. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull these out of the oven, get them set up on here, start to let them cool, and then this one is ready to go back in to be seasoned as well. So all right, so now you have the first round of seasoning done to these pans. You're gonna do this a few times, depending on the condition of the pan. Specifically, these two we took down to almost nothing, bare metal. So we're gonna do 4 rounds of seasoning on these to get them back to where we want them to be a cooking pan. Because my griddle already had some seasoning on it, a little bit more of a spot clean, kind of a re-seasoning for it, we're gonna just do this guy one more time. So I wanna show you what this looks like once you pull it out of the oven. So what you've got going on here is not any wooden utensils. Stand by. Okay. So what you got going on here, you see a little bit of the blotching on the inside of this and where that is. So that's all starting to season up. Eventually what you're looking for is that to be a completely smooth black surface. We are going to let these cool down a little bit. If you do put your oil on it right now, it's just going to flash the oil. So we're going to let these guys drop a little bit, let them sit here for 15 or 20 minutes, and then go from there. So this pan is that really, really bad pan that we had sitting in the lye water. It took off some of it, but the lye is going to eat that seasoning, that polymerized oil. So that's what the goal with that was. The rust and the scaling from hard water deposits, because this was sitting in water, is what we're using the vinegar solution for. I have been scraping and scraping and scraping. This is going to take a lot of work. So we're still at it, but you can see to a point where there's actually like chunky rust on here. You know? So a little bit of metal on metal is not going to hurt the pan at this stage because we don't have the seasoning on there. It's once you have the pan seasoned is when you want to be careful about scraping it or scratching it, because you're going to take some of that seasoning off. But the metal itself, right now, this hard rust isn't going to hurt anything. So we're just going to keep soaking it, keep scrubbing it, keep soaking it. The kid doesn't have school today. This might be a great thing for her to do. All right, guys, when you've had a second to let this piece cool down, you're going to come in here with your little bit of oil, and it doesn't take a lot, just a little drizzle here and there. So what you're going to do is, again, with this lint-free rag, this terry towel, you're going to want to use a hot mitt to hold this piece, and then you're just going to take this and give this a nice little wipe. You're just looking for a really thin coat on this, not a huge heavy thing, but you also want to make sure that you're getting the sides and the bottom of this guy all the way around. Every square inch of this pan needs to have oil on it, okay, including the handle and the eyelet on the handle, all the way around. So if you have a thick enough rag, you don't need to use a pair of tongs or anything to hold this, but this pan is still very, very hot, so just be smart about what you're doing. So you can see on the pan, we still have a little bit of our discoloration and things where a little bit of the oil was. What's going to happen after the subsequent seasonings, we're going to do 3 more on these, is those will start to fade away. And those will start to disappear. So go ahead and get a thin coat of oil on all your pans, and we'll get them back in the oven. I'm pretty excited about this number 5. This guy cleaned up really, really well. Good looking handle. There's no pitting or anything in it. Really nice. Don't forget to get the bottom side of that handle and the eyelet. And that's what she looks like. After you've spent a considerable amount of time purchasing your cast iron, refurbishing it, seasoning it, and using it, what you want to do is every single time you use the pan, you're going to clean it. So we're going to take a pan that's still pretty warm. We already ate lunch with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this pan about half full of water, just regular tap water. And then we're going to put this back on the burner. And what we're going to essentially do is we're going to boil this water in the pan. So, all right, once you've brought the water in your pot to a boil, I have a dedicated brush, Cappy Special brush, that never has soap on it. So you can use this with one of those little sponge handles, just don't fill it with soap. But once this water is boiled in here, we're just going to take and scrub this guy out. It had some little crisped on rice. You can see the steam coming off of it as we wash it here. We're going to wash that out. And there's your pan. Not a bit of food stuck to it. So the next step, because we want to keep with the seasoning, is we're going to put this back on the burner. We're going to heat this up until it's dry. And then we're going to apply that thin coat of oil, just like we did in the beginning here. So, yep, so we're just going to put that on there, probably take a minute or two. We already did the same thing with the bacon smasher that we used for lunch. So that's going to get a thin coat of oil, so is the pan, and they're going to get put up for the day. All right, once you put it back on the burner and it is dried out completely, we're just again going to come back with just a little bit of oil on that pan and our rag. So this little rag, because we use it every single day, lives on the countertop for 2 or 3 days at a time. And then what I'll do is I'll take a little bucket of simple green and warm water and just let this guy soak and then throw it in the dishwasher. Sorry. Let this guy soak and then we just throw it in the wash machine. So again, you're going to make sure to get every inch of this pan. Handle, the eyelet, the outside, the bottom especially, back around that thing, underside of the handle. And we're going to give our little smasher a wipe too. And you're just protecting that steel, helping keep that seasoning on it. And you got a clean cast iron pan. All right, someone had asked on one of the last posts we did about different pieces of cast iron. They asked what the most unique piece that we owned, and this is one of them. So this is a cast iron lamb cake mold, and they have different kinds of cake molds, but this is a 3-dimensional cake mold. So you would lay this down on its nose like that, pour your cake batter in there, and then put the back half on. And then bake it like that. It's got some little vent holes in the top that allow steam and everything to escape. But yeah, it's a really fun thing. We'll throw a picture up of what the finished cake looks like. But if you ever use one of these 3-dimensional molds, the only thing I can tell you is Crisco is your absolute best friend, or lard of any kind. Wipe the inside with lard, wipe it again, and if you think you have too much, you're wrong. Put some more lard in there. Otherwise, getting this thing out of the mold is kind of a trick. So yeah, so that's our little lamb.